If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The Cleveland Browns find themselves staring at a brand new challenge as Week 5 of the NFL season approaches, and it's not one that their fans were hoping to deal with right now. Head coach Kevin Stefanski confirmed on Monday that wide receivers Cedric Tillman and DeAndre Carter are officially out for Sunday's matchup in England against the Minnesota Vikings, and the news doesn't stop there. According to Stefanski, both players might be sidelined for multiple weeks, which could reshape the offensive and special teams plans that the Browns had meticulously built over the first month of the season. It's the kind of mid-season curveball that tests depth, creativity, and resilience, especially for a team trying to maintain its footing in one of the most competitive divisions in football. For Cedric Tillman, the setback comes at a particularly frustrating time. Tillman, who has earned a starting role across the first 4 games this season, has quietly become an important piece in Cleveland's passing attack. His hamstring injury, which Stefanski did not sugarcoat, is one of those nagging issues that can linger if not carefully managed. And for a receiver who relies on bursts of acceleration and clean breaks out of his routes, it's the last thing you want to see. Tillman has shown flashes of reliability and growth, pulling down 11 receptions for 106 yards and finding the end zone twice so far. He's not yet the household name like some of the league's top receivers, but within Cleveland's locker room, he's a trusted option who has done exactly what has been asked of him. Losing that kind of steady presence, especially in a season still trying to build rhythm, creates a hole that won't be easy to patch overnight. DeAndre Carter's injury is just as problematic, but in a very different way. Carter hasn't taken offensive snaps this year, but his role as the team's primary return specialist is invaluable. Special teams often fly under the radar until something goes wrong or, conversely, until someone makes a game-changing play. Carter has consistently handled kickoffs and punts, and in a league where field position is often the difference between winning and losing, his absence looms large. With 11 kickoff returns totaling 274 yards and 6 punt returns already this season, Carter's experience and steady hands give the Browns confidence in situations that are anything but routine. Now, with his knee injury ruling him out, Cleveland will have to reshuffle duties, likely turning to less experienced options, and that always brings a level of uncertainty that coaches dread. The timing of these injuries couldn't be much worse. The Browns are flying to England for their international clash with the Minnesota Vikings, a showcase game that comes with added attention and the unique challenge of travel, preparation in a different environment, and the balancing act of keeping players' bodies ready despite the disruption to their weekly routines. These games are marketed as celebrations of football on a global stage, but for the teams involved, they're often exhausting tests of focus. To walk into such a game down 2 contributors, one from the offense, one from special teams, adds a layer of stress that Stefanski and his staff will need to navigate carefully. Tillman's broader career arc adds even more weight to this story. At just 25 years old, he's already begun carving out a consistent role in a league where jobs aren't guaranteed. Across 3 seasons with the Browns, he has 61 receptions for 669 yards and 5 touchdowns over 29 games, including 13 starts. Those numbers may not leap off the stat sheet, but they paint the picture of a young receiver learning the game, improving each year, and earning the trust of his coaches. Every rep he takes is valuable for his development, and now those opportunities will be paused. That's the cruel reality of the NFL. Progress often halts not because of performance, but because of the injuries that inevitably come with the physical toll of the sport. Carter's career, on the other hand, tells the story of resilience and adaptability. At 32 years old, he's something of a journeyman, having suited up for 7 different teams across 8 seasons. He's accumulated 117 receptions for 1,331 yards and 6 touchdowns in 111 career games, a resume that shows he's been more than just a role player at times. But it's on special teams where Carter has truly left his mark, highlighted by that kickoff return touchdown back in 2021 with the Washington Commanders. Players like him often become unsung heroes. They don't get the headlines, but they tilt games in subtle ways that teammates and coaches never overlook. Cleveland brought him in to stabilize their return game, and until this injury, that's exactly what he's been doing. The bigger picture for Cleveland now is how to adapt. Injuries are never an excuse in the NFL, but they force teams to reveal what kind of depth they've built. Can younger receivers step into Tillman's role? Can someone handle return duties with Carter sidelined without creating risk of costly mistakes? These are questions that will be answered in real time, on a big stage, thousands of miles away from home. The Vikings aren't the kind of opponent you can afford to stumble against. They might be inconsistent at times, but they've got talent across the board and will be eager to seize the spotlight of an international matchup. This isn't the first time Cleveland has been tested by adversity, and it certainly won't be the last. Every season has its defining moments, and while losing two players might not seem monumental compared to the kind of quarterback injuries or defensive collapses that dominate headlines, the reality is that small cracks can widen quickly in a league this competitive. For Stefanski, keeping his locker room focused, confident, and adaptable is key. He has to remind his team that injuries are part of the game, that the next man up philosophy is more than just a cliche, and that this week is about proving resilience as much as talent. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the league, stories like Patrick Mahomes leading the Kansas City Chiefs past the Baltimore Ravens remind us what elite quarterbacks and well-built organizations can do when doubts creep in. The Chiefs entered the season facing skepticism, questions about whether their dominance was beginning to fade, and Mahomes responded by doing what he always seems to do, delivering when it matters. For Browns fans, watching that kind of consistency elsewhere can feel like a cruel reminder of what's missing, but it also provides a blueprint. Teams that thrive despite setbacks do so by trusting their systems, leaning on their stars, and making sure that role players, even when called upon unexpectedly, are prepared to seize their moment. In the end, the Browns' trip to England is more than just a football game. It's a test of adaptability, resilience, and belief in their roster. Tillman and Carter may be out, and their absences will be felt in obvious and subtle ways. But the NFL is built on stories of players rising when opportunity knocks. Somewhere in Cleveland's depth chart lies the next man ready to prove himself, ready to make sure that when the lights shine overseas, the Browns still look like a team ready to fight for their season. Injuries may set the stage, but performance will decide the narrative, and for Stefanski's squad, the story is still being written. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. The NFL has always thrived on drama, whether it's on the field in the final seconds of a game or off the field in the form of words exchanged between players, coaches, or analysts. And now the Cleveland Browns, a franchise that constantly seems to be at the center of controversy, find themselves in yet another spotlight. The noise grew louder this week after Shedeur Sanders, young star quarterback and son of Deion Sanders, made a comment that reverberated across the league and stirred up a conversation that landed directly in the Browns' locker room. Shedeur, who has quickly built a reputation for being brash and outspoken, tossed out a line about veteran quarterbacks not moving the needle anymore, implying that certain names in the league were placeholders rather than game changers. He didn't mention Joe Flacco by name, but the implication was strong enough and the timing specific enough that everyone connected the dots. And Flacco, who has built a long career on poise and understated confidence, wasn't about to let that one slide without a response. What followed was Flacco firing back, and in his own way, it was exactly the kind of rebuttal that made headlines. He wasn't heated, he wasn't yelling, but the message was clear: don't question my ability, don't question my presence, and certainly don't dismiss the years I've poured into this league. Flacco reminded the younger generation that he's a Super Bowl MVP, that he's been in the biggest games and delivered when it mattered most. And while some might roll their eyes at the idea of a veteran defending himself against a rising college star, the truth is that in the NFL, narratives matter just as much as statistics. For the Browns, already dealing with locker room uncertainty and whispers of unrest, this exchange couldn't have come at a worse time. Because now it isn't just about injuries or coaching decisions. It's about credibility, leadership, and whether the players truly believe in the quarterback leading them. Inside the Cleveland building, the mood has been tense for weeks. The team came into the season with high expectations, a stacked defense, and a belief that they could finally make some noise in the playoffs. But consistency at quarterback has haunted this franchise for decades, and it still does. Flacco, brought in as both a stabilizer and a mentor, wasn't supposed to be the center of any drama. He was meant to be the steady hand, the calm presence in a storm. Yet, thanks to Shedeur's jab and Flacco's pointed response, all eyes are now on him and how he handles the mounting pressure. Players have noticed, coaches have noticed, and the media is circling like sharks sensing blood in the water. When Shedeur spoke, he probably didn't anticipate sparking a mini crisis in Cleveland, but that's exactly what's happened. For Flacco, this is about more than defending his legacy. It's about asserting that he still has something left in the tank, that he's not just a placeholder, but a competitor who can lead a team. He pointed to his late-season performances in previous years, when he stepped in and delivered in crunch moments. He highlighted the preparation, the film study, the countless hours spent making sure the offense runs smoothly. The subtext of his rebuttal was simple. I've been there, done that, and until you've done it at this level, maybe keep your opinions to yourself. Those words hit hard, not just toward Shedeur, but also to anyone in the Browns organization who might have quietly doubted whether Flacco was still the right man to guide the offense. But the problem is, Cleveland's locker room has been fragile. There's been whispers about players not fully buying into the coaching staff's plan, frustration with the lack of clarity at quarterback, and tension about whether this roster is truly built to compete in the AFC North, where every week feels like a war. Now you add in this public back and forth, and suddenly the Browns' issues are no longer confined to X's and O's. They've become cultural. Players start choosing sides, some backing Flacco for his experience and leadership, others quietly wondering whether it's time to move on and embrace a new direction. When a team starts splintering like that, it rarely ends well. And the Browns, more than most franchises, know how quickly things can unravel. The timing also makes this more explosive. Cleveland is approaching a stretch of games that could define their season, games against divisional rivals that will either cement them as contenders or expose them as pretenders. Every quarterback mistake will now be magnified. Every interception will be tied back to this drama. Every 3-and-out will fuel the narrative that Flacco's words were more about pride than performance. For a fan base that has endured heartbreak after heartbreak, this feels like déjà vu. They've seen veteran quarterbacks come in, promise stability, only for the wheels to fall off when the stakes get highest. The chatter around Shedeur might have just poured gasoline on a fire that was already threatening to burn out of control. From the outside looking in, it's easy to dismiss this as a petty exchange, a young player talking big and an older player defending his turf. But in the NFL, perception matters almost as much as production. A quarterback isn't just throwing passes. He's setting the tone for the entire team. If the locker room starts doubting him, if the media starts piling on, if fans start grumbling, that weight can crush even the most seasoned veterans. Flacco knows this, which is why he pushed back so firmly. He can't afford to be seen as passive, can't allow the narrative to take root that he's washed up or irrelevant. By responding, he's trying to control the story. But sometimes, the more you fight the narrative, the stronger it becomes. And then there's the Shedeur factor itself. He's not even in the league yet, but his voice already carries weight because of his lineage and the way he's captured attention at the college level. His comments resonate with younger fans, with players who see him as the future, and with media outlets hungry for the next flashy headline. For Flacco, that makes this battle even trickier. He's fighting not just one voice, but an entire wave of sentiment that says the old guard needs to make way for the new. That's not an easy fight to win, no matter how many rings you have on your finger. In Cleveland, the coaches are trying to downplay all of this, insisting that the team is focused on football and nothing else. But anyone who's been around the game long enough knows you can't just sweep this under the rug. Players talk. They scroll through social media. They watch the press conferences. They feel the tension. And the Browns, who desperately need unity to survive the grind of the season, suddenly look like a team divided by whispers and doubt. It's the kind of thing that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but makes all the difference when games are decided by inches and by heart. So here we are, Joe Flacco standing tall, defending his career and his place in the league, while the Browns try to hold it together in the middle of another storm. The question isn't just whether Flacco can still make the throws. It's whether he can carry the belief of his teammates through the noise. Because in this league, confidence is everything. And right now, thanks to a young quarterback who isn't even in the NFL yet, Cleveland's confidence is hanging by a thread. If they win, this all fades into the background. But if they lose, especially in dramatic or sloppy fashion, the crisis deepens, the voices get louder, and the Browns once again become the story for all the wrong reasons. What started as a stray comment from Shedeur Sanders has turned into a full-blown narrative about legacy, leadership, and the fragile state of the Cleveland Browns. And as long as this lingers, one thing is clear: this isn't just about football anymore. It's about identity, pride, and whether this team can weather yet another storm without breaking apart completely. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!